Special 109 District Board meeting. We will call it to order at 5:35 p.m. Welcome, everyone. And first item of business is the approval of the March 23rd meeting, March 23rd minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? And are there any comments, changes, additions?
I'll move approval.
We have a move for approval. Do we have a second?
Second that, Susan Hart.
Moved by Deborah, seconded by Susan. Is there any additional comment?
Mary is.
I made the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't hear her.
Your picture didn't pop up on the screen that time. Okay.
Oops.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes for the March 23rd meeting signify by saying aye.
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 All those representing disapproval, please signify by saying aye. Hearing none, minutes for the March 23rd meeting are approved. Pete, did you get any data from the finance department to have a budget report?
I do. It's not the most up to date. Typically, I like to get the detail expenses at the same time I get the overall system data, because I want them to match up and be done at the same time. But this one is accurate up to 6/14, so it's about 10 days old. As you can see, we are running well ahead in our receipts, especially in recycling.
Excuse me, Pete. Excuse me, but I don't have it on the screen.
You guys can't see that on the screen?
No.
No, it just says 109 board meeting.
Wow. Okay.
It might be there in a small slide on the left-hand side of the screen, but
Let me
it's
try one more time.
not very readable.
I selected the wrong screen. My apologies. Can you see the budget report now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the budget report. You can see that we are well ahead on our recycling receipts due to the good market for recycling. We are well ahead of our license fees at 117%. I anticipate that to be pretty close to it for this year. So I don't anticipate any additional license fees to be coming in. On expenses, we are well below normal. But as I stated in the last meeting back in March, there under contractual services, the vendor for our has-been has had some issues. And we thought at that time that it had been worked out, but it did not. And we just got it where they came into compliance and can be paid as of today. So what is missing there is they're owed $134,733 that would come in under contractual services. So that number is going to go well up, and it would impact the number of expenses that we have. Otherwise, I still think that we're running well ahead with probably one more month of expenses to be added to it. So I think that we're going to come out just a little bit under budget with the license fees we have, with the rollover amount from last year, with the miscellaneous fee there. We're running at about $2,871,838 in our account, if you consider us an account. So I know that we talked about whether or not that we can invest some of that money, and OMB, I think at the last time said that yes, but they needed to know some details. And then I think that the discussion turned to that's something that we would want to discuss maybe at the retreat. So I'm still assuming that that's what we do want to do. Other than that, I don't have any other budget details as far as individual expenditures. I will have that at the next one. You know, the individual that pulls these reports, I've been having trouble getting in contact with him.
Pete, just a real general question on the recycling receipts. Are there any particular category or categories of recyclables that are accounting for that good market?
Generally, it's going to be the cardboard that has really helped us. Aluminum cans have helped us a little bit. But you know, it takes a whole lot of aluminum cans to make up much weight. But paper and cardboard is the primary drivers of that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Are there any additional questions or comments from board members about the budget report? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Pete. Let's move on to the next item.
This is correspondence. We've received some correspondence from these three organizations that would be directed to the board. I know all the board members have received this via email and through the board packets. I don't know how you guys want to do this. I can put this up on the screen. Or we can, if there's a representative from these organizations that want to speak to the correspondence, they are very welcome to do so. I don't see Stacy Roof. Stacy, are you there? No. Basically, what they're saying here is that Stacy says she represents the Kentucky Restaurant Association. It's a nonprofit, supports several thousand restaurants, many in Jefferson County. They've been following the recommendations from the 10-year study keenly over the years. And they're an active listener participating in the virtual one-on-one advisory board meetings about the 5-year plan. Most of these members are small business entrepreneurs and have a passion for serving a variety of delicious food offerings to the residents of the city. They work diligently to do their absolute best to provide top-notch experience to their customers. All of the members have trash services, and a number have recycling and composting programs they have instituted with local vendors. There has been some discussion at your meeting regarding the possibility of mandatory recycling for mixed waste streams and food scrap composting. To be clear, our members are not in favor of mandatory requirements. Our independent business owners face so much governmental regulations from the Health Department, FDA, OSHA, Labor Cabinet, Revenue Cabinet, and many other entities aside from the local ordinances. Thank you for your consideration, Stacy. I would want to point out that in the 10 that isn't in any of the short-term recommendations for any mandatory organics recycling. It pushes for technical assistance. That's the letter from the Kentucky Restaurant Association. The Louisville Apartment Association, J.D. Carey, the executive director. They've been following the act. Their organization has been active in Jefferson County since 1968 and represents 68,000 rental units in the Louisville metro area. LAA members, which include all facets of multifamily housing industry in Greater Louisville, build relationships and promote growth between those involved in ownership, management, and suppliers of products and services to our industry. Our membership with the National Apartment Association ensures that LAA members receive the most accurate information regarding current trends, legislation, and educational opportunities. We support the diversity, integrity, and ever-changing environment of the multifamily housing industry. Our industry provides residents of Louisville Metro with the most one of the most fundamental of all needs, quality place to call home. JD says that he's been following the 109 board and the advisory committee meetings, along with the LAA board of directors and many of their members. Our primary interest has been in the discussion surrounding the 10-year study and the transition into requirement to update the 5-year solid waste management plan. We understand it is due prior to the end of 22. Our concern is the impact this may have on the members. We are responsible for a large variety of housing and opportunities comprising a range of monthly rental price points. All properties offer various amenities, and all properties do provide solid waste services. Some also provide recycling services. The ownership and principal management groups provide services based upon the tenant request and financial ability to provide these amenities. The 10-year study contains numerous references regarding mandatory recycling recommendations. While we do not have members that choose to provide recycling service, some even provide valet trash and recycling services. We are not in favor of any legislation, regulations, or ordinances that would require our members to provide these services to all facilities located in Jefferson County. We were unclear as to whether mandatory recycling would be required by your board and wanted to make certain we expressed our objection prior to the time your board acted on any 5-year plan update. Thank you for your consideration, JD Carey. Again, there was a 10-year study there in the recommendations. There was, to my knowledge, in looking at the chart, there's nothing in there about mandatory recycling for multifamily properties. The next one is from the National Waste and Recycling Association, Mr. Robert Lee. Bob, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, if you don't mind. I won't get involved with the recommendations, but I would like to address the issue, and we appreciate the fact that you've given us the opportunity to do so, Bob and Pete. Just to reiterate, the letter basically states that the National Waste and Recycling Association would like to state our appreciation for continued dialogue on all things waste and recycling with Metro leadership and the Louisville Metro Solid Waste Board. We believe that it's important to include voices from the waste and recycling industry in the long-term planning process as both subject matter experts and representatives of over 250,000 customers in the Louisville metro area. The 5-year solid waste plan is not just a statutory requirement, but we consider it an opportunity to set a course of action for the future. Solid waste and recycling collection in Metro Louisville is complicated with 83 incorporated cities and a large number of homeowners associations, in addition to the urban service district collected by Metro Public Works. Despite that complication, Metro Louisville's current diversion rate of 54% is higher than Austin, Texas's 42%, and approaches Seattle, Washington's 60% rate. It is also significantly ahead of regional peers such as Nashville, which is 24%, and Indianapolis, which is only 7%. Private haulers, dispose, and material recovery facilities have been leaders in driving that rate and will continue to lead as Metro Louisville seeks to achieve its short-term goal of 58% diversion, which is 70% of recoverable materials, and 80% recycling participation by 2026. In its long-term goal of 90% diversion of recoverable materials and 90% recycling participation. And to that end, please find the attached documents, which provides the Kentucky chapter's positions on how best to align the goals of the 5-year waste management plan with the short-term goals of the solid waste master plan. Please let me know if there's any questions or need any additional information. We have been participating in the in the process for ever since it started. We have individual members that are on the subcommittees as well as the association. What is it?
The advisory board.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry. I lost the advisory board, and of course myself, that is a member of the 109 board. And we look forward to continuing the process of having the information available for those that are part of the process also, and look forward to dealing with all the issues and all the recommendations and goals that Metro government and the association wishes to go forward with by having more information and availability to the advisory committee and also the subcommittees. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Bob, I think you're muted.
I would assume, Pete, that copy of Bob's letter and attachment goes to the advisory committee.
Yeah, we'll make sure that it is actually through the documents that was sent out for this meeting. It did include everyone on the advisory committee.
I see the letter, but I don't see the attachment. Was that sent?
Yes.
Yes, we received that in our board packets from Pete. I think it may have been the second email he sent out the other day or two ago.
Yes, sir.
The same one had this letter and it had several attachments, and one of them was Bob's attachments.
This is Bruce. Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
When mail is addressed to myself and sent to the Meriwether address, do you normally forward that mail out, or can you call me where I can pick it up, or just notify me, Pete? Because I believe I was copied on JD's letter, but it went to the Metro address.
All of the copies did come to the Metro address. We don't forward the actual letter, but we make sure that every board member does receive that letter through email.
Okay, so you open the mail and then make sure it's the same and forward it.
Well, to be honest with you, no, I didn't open up the individual members' emails. No. Maybe I made a wrong assumption that they were all the same letter. But no, I don't open up everybody else's mail.
I would agree that the assumption would be probably correct, but if there is mail coming to me at Metro, would you just alert me and I can swing down there and pick it up at any time?
Absolutely. And I made an assumption and I shouldn't have. So in the future, any correspondence that comes in anyone else's name, I will make sure that they are aware, and either we can forward it or they can give me permission to open it and forward it through email. However, but I work with the individual members to make sure that they're comfortable with receiving that information however they want to.
All right. Thank you, Pete.
Mhm.
Do we have any? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
If I could, on the letter that we received from the National Waste and Recycling Association, there were some numbers in there about the diversion rates in other cities. And I wanted to remind everybody, and this is something that I've talked about before, is diversion numbers are measured differently across the different cities. The EPA does not have a standardized computational method to do so. When looking at the rates that for like Austin, Texas, and Seattle, those rates are calculated using MSW only. our 54% rate is calculated using MSW and construction and demolition debris. The rate that we have that most closely mirrors Austin and Seattle is our residential and commercial rate, which is MSW. And for us, that stands at 25.7% currently. Nashville also calculates theirs based upon MSW. I didn't do Indianapolis's to see how they calculated, but I would just like to remind everybody that diversion rate calculation across the United States is one of the issues that's been flagged by the US EPA as a problem. And the Recycling Partnership and many other organizations are working to make sure that to see if we can't standardize that to a certain degree, because it can be very misleading.
This is Bob Lee. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, do you feel comfortable with the 54% that we say is our established goal?
The current diversion rate of 54% is higher than Austin's. Our current overall rate, which includes construction and demolition material, opposite of Austin and Seattle, is actually at 50% right now. But that is our overall rate.
So my question is that do we feel comfortable with putting that out as our rate, or should we adjust it? I mean, as far as I know, and this has been many, many years, Bob well knows, and you, that, we have always had the diversion rate for C&D materials and beneficial reuse. And I guess my question is, will that continue to be our philosophy going forward, or should we change that?
If going back in when I first started and looking at how the diversion rate was calculated, and I was working with Marie at the time, the rate was calculated in two ways. Typically, it was calculated using the MSW way, which is a much lower rate. And Jim Bruggers from the Courier-Journal had done a story about how our rate was so much lower. And the explanation is that other cities that he referenced included C&D. So that when we started tracking in multiple ways. So right now we track it curbside rate, we track it residential commercial rate, and we track it overall rate that does include C&D. I think we should continue to measure all three because they are historical.
Does it include beneficial reuse?
The overall rate does.
I don't see a problem tracking all three as long as we're transparent and state what each component of that is.
Yeah, I report that every year as part of the annual report.
I think the problem comes in when you look at what other cities report, and if possible, I guess you have to dig down to figure out exactly what they are reporting. And if they don't state upfront, just in a general statement, if they don't state upfront what that includes, then you have to dig down to figure out exactly what it includes.
A lot of them do have their measurements, and that's what I went to today to look at. But I would also say there's other differences that you have to take into account. And one is that waste composition is much different up north versus down south, or from a very urban area versus a very suburban area. An urban area doesn't have nearly as much yard waste as a suburban area. So there's so many variables. And I think that's why the US EPA has never come out and said that this is the proper way to measure diversion across the country. There's just way too many variables.
it's been, correct me if I'm wrong, but my memory is we probably are going back at least 30 years when they have never addressed that. And they have never set a standard. And it's been like 30 years, I think.
I'm sure it has. I know that the recycling partnership is trying and we work with the partnership a lot. They are working, they have a thing called the municipal measurement system, in which case they're having so many cities measure it the same way into their system. And using that, I think they're trying to build a comparison model, which I think is a great idea. We've participated in sending our data in for the last several years, and that was actually, we were doing it before they made it the requirement that when we received the CART grant, Metro received a CART grant last year, that was a requirement of getting that grant is we participated in that municipal measurement system.
You know, Bruce, Bob, we might be asking the wrong question. As far as what percent that, or the goal that we're saying that we are eliminating from the landfill, the MSW study uses that 50 or 54% as a measurement, as a benchmark, right? In order to go forward. So we would just about be tied to that as we go forward in order to make sure that we're establishing the right type of percentages. Am I right?
Yeah, I think as long as we're consistent in what we put out there and what we report. And I think we've always, at least since I've been involved, we've always been fairly upfront about breaking that down.
I would add, Bob, if you look at the executive summary of the study, it actually has 4 different metrics for measurement and rates. Basically, it was breaking it down into different sectors. You know, to be honest, it brings up a very good question as to what rate should we be following. And I think that's a question that I always assumed was the overall rate. But I think it's probably worth going back and taking a look at the study and seeing how they're doing that, or if they made reference to which measurement. Lots of things as you measure against yourself, just due to the fact that that's how you know that you're doing. But yeah, I think that we need to go back and take a look at the study and how they put it in there.
I'm not advocating either way. I'm just thinking that we need to be forthright in regards to what our percentage is as far as diversion goes. And if the study reflects the full diversion rate of 54%, we should continue with doing that in order to make the process look better.
Yeah, I think the key to that is when we state a goal, we have to state what that goal entails, everything that we're including in that goal, and then we report each of those things as they're part of reaching that goal.
The goals that we had set, and let me see if I can. This is the community diversion rates as far as this is the residential commercial recycling rate. This is the overall recycling rate. We had some goals that was set, the targets. This one was set at 27%, in which case we were actually over that goal for a bit. And now we've slipped back down in the 25.7. So we never really had a goal for the overall rate because it wasn't the main one that the district tracked from back in the early 1990s. Because I still have all the tracking all the way back to the first diversion rate. We didn't do the overall rate at that time that included that. We did that later on because that's what the paper came out with. So I think keeping the historical data is probably one of the most important things that we can do so that we can see what we're doing with. I think we need to stick with all the version metrics that we can get. I would just say that we need to be careful when we measure ourselves to other cities because it is very variable in the way that cities do their reporting.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you all. Thank you, Robert. We move on to action items.
Hang on a second. I think I messed up. Okay, so the first action item is renewal or payment of the subscription for Retrack. Retrack is the system that we use and have used for several years for all of our licensees, which includes haulers, recyclers, landfills, compost facilities, and more, to report their annual stuff for the annual report. This is where we do get our diversion numbers straight from the individual licensees. So this is a renewal of that. It has stayed the same price, $9,980. I would urge the board to continue to support this and approve the expenditure so that we can continue to do this as we have.
And this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this has helped you all in getting more consistent reporting from the license.
Absolutely. It has prevented us from double counting waste. It also is much less prone to a typo here and there, which can change a tonnage, change a number immensely. The way that we was tracking this with spreadsheets before, these spreadsheets were absolutely massive and prone to a typo here and there. So this has made life so much easier in tracking things.
Does it make it easier for the licensee?
Well, it depends upon the licensee. I'm sure some of them are not nearly as tech savvy as others, so they don't like the tech part of it. But what I can say is that I haven't had any complaints once it was initially done. And it, in my mind, it does make it easier because all of the data is held from year to year. And all they have to do is plug in their data, new data. They don't have to fill out the rest of the company information and stuff like that. So there are benefits to them to use this system. Plus, they can also reference back to their older reports and they're saved for them. So I think overall it's been good. And the fact that we haven't had any complaints in a while, I think it's working well for the licensees.
Any additional comments, questions from board members? Can we have a motion to approve renewal of the contract?
This is Debbie. I
I
will
make
make
a motion that we approve this trust.
Is that an approval and a second?
however you want to make it, I guess.
Well, from my end, you guys, your audio was kind of walking over each other, so I wasn't exactly.
Okay.
I think I had Deborah as a first and Deetra as a second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional comments, questions from board members? Hearing none. Pete, you want to do a roll call on this since it involves
Sure.
money?
Deetra Shipley,
Yes.
Deborah Thomas,
Thompson, yes.
Robert Lee,
Yes.
Mary Rose Evans,
Yes.
Susan Hart,
Yes.
And I believe that is it. So the motion
Uh,
passes unanimously.
I'd like to vote yes.
Oh, okay. It felt a little bit light. Thanks, Bob. So it does pass 6-1 missing, however you say that. Thank you, guys. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you all very much. Item number 2.
This is for the Recycle Coach, which is an app that we use that's been hugely beneficial for us to be able to get out information about our pop-up drop-off events, for people to make schedules. You guys approved this probably what, Karen, about 3 to 4 years ago? And it
4.
had 4 years ago, and it had a base rate of $9,900. That included SMS notifications at the time. And what has happened over the years is the number of text messages that are being used has increased. And that is just due to the popularity of the app. And Karen can get a little bit more into detail about how many users and stuff. But in essence, now we're being charged a usage fee over the base. And they estimate that for the next year to be $3,500. And so that would basically be for the next year. What you're seeing there is for the next year. On the bottom, what you'll see is the SMS overages for 2021 and 22. And that is money owed currently. And that is $1,385. That's how much we went over on the data charges. Karen and I have talked to them pretty extensively and feel like that their customer service portal needs to be a little bit more transparent as to letting us know when we're getting close to an overage. So they have made some adjustments and will continue to make a few adjustments to their portal to be a little bit more transparent. So Karen, you got anything else to add on this?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that at the very beginning, there was a $1,500 charge for SMS messages. And it was in the 3rd year, I believe, that it started going over, and Recycle Coach wanted to raise that price. And there was a little unclear, and it was a little unclear for a little bit. So we, like Pete said, extensively talked to them to clarify it all. So now we're at least understanding everything, and that charge is now $3,500 for the upcoming year. So it did start at $1,500, and then now it's $3,500.
So what we're asking the board to do right now is to first off approve the expenditure of $1,385 for last year's overages, and then approve the subscription for the next year's cost of $400.
Can I ask a question about this program?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is this the application that I'm seeing on my neighborhood blog, the Facebook and so forth, that Karen has updates on the,
No,
that's not that. Okay.
no, I think you're thinking of Nextdoor.
Nextdoor. Okay. So then this Recycle Coach, I downloaded this on my phone from the regular App Store. Is that how I access this program through a regular app? It has
Yes.
this logo.
If
Okay.
you have the app, mostly you as the user get to look at your own, I don't know if you're in the Urban Services District, but you get to look at your own schedule and see our events. The extra charge here has to do with text messages. So if you receive collection reminders or reminders for events, it has to do with how you chose to receive them. That fee covers the text messages or the SMS. emails and push notifications that just sort of pop up on your phone, those are not an overage. Those don't have any kind of fee. And the text messages, there is that one-time fee that covers, just the use of it. But then if it turned out you went over, like last year we have that extra charge, but they're trying to just sort of even it out so that our base fee should cover what is normal. So that way we don't get surprised at the end. But we're also asking them to make that clearer on my client portal, so I can tell ahead of time, look at it every once in a while. So hopefully that made sense.
Use a text message over an email.
Say
Is
that
that-
again?
It's my choice to choose a text message over an email, or that's your.
That's your choice. Yes. Or
I
a
could
push
go.
notification.
Okay, I could go back and change that then. Okay. All right.
So I
This
think,
is Detroit. I was just gonna say, this is Detroit, and I love the text messages. The reminders.
Yes, and we did not want to take that away because we know that's a very easy way to get your reminders. So the other, if you have a smartphone, the difference, I know with mine, I have an iPhone and I get a push, they call it push notifications. So those are the things that kind of just pop up on your home screen. So that's a little bit different.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second what Deethra said, and then based on what the question Susan asked, I guess the popularity of the app and the choice of the individual user of the app is what is driving that, correct?
Yes.
Well, I guess it's a good thing that more and more people are using it. Even though it's costing us a little bit of money, I guess it's a good thing because there's more people taking advantage of it and getting notices.
Yes, and there are people who don't want the app. Then you can go onto the website and sign up for reminders that way. And so someone may put a phone number instead of an email address. So that's another way that text messages are coming through. So I don't think there's any way in the beginning to know what our community would choose as far as how they're going to receive their messages. But the important thing is that they do get the reminders.
Can you give us an estimate of the number of users that we currently have on the system?
Me? I haven't looked at that. Hold on. Give me just a second.
I think it would surprise everybody the number of people that we have using the app or the program for Recycle Coach. Is it going to take you a little bit too long
Well,
here?
I didn't have it pulled up. Hold on. And of course, I can't think of my password. I thought Lauren sent us an email.
Well, while Karen is looking that up, you need us to do this in two approvals, one for 1385 and one for the 13400?
Yes, that is correct, Bob.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the money that the $1,385 that we owe from past overages? Can I have a motion to approve that?
Past overages for the Recycle Coach.
Yes.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the amount of $13,400, cover the overcosts on the Recycle Coach application.
Okay, we just, the first one that we need is just the 1,385.
Okay, to cover the expenses for the Recycle Coach.
Yeah, the past expenses. Yeah.
Past the expense for 13,400. Okay.
We have
Now
it. No.
Oh, we're still wrong.
what we need is a motion to approve the overage fees for 21-22, which come to $1,385.
Where's that at?
That's what I thought.
No, when you said
I
it,
know.
you said 13,400.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Okay, so then I make a motion to cover the over expenses of $1,385. Recycle Coach app.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion on that motion or the motion on the floor? Okay, hearing none, voice vote. Pete?
Roll call vote would be Deidre Shipley,
Aye.
Deborah Thompson,
Yes.
Yes.
Mary Rose Evans,
Yes,
Susan Hart,
Yes.
Bob Schindler.
Yes.
And Bob, if you're there, I can't see your image. There you go. Bob Lee,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Now, can we have a motion to approve the annual subscription that would cover the next or the upcoming calendar or fiscal year, however it applies?
I make a motion that we approve the annual subscription for Recycle Coach.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. I guess at this point in time, before we go ahead and vote on it, I'll ask Karen if she's been able to come up with those figures yet.
Yes, it's a little tricky because it's divided out. There's 85,000 total users. But that comes out, there's 42,000, so almost half of them are communication users that get emails and text messages on the phone. And then 14,000 have downloaded a PDF calendar that's still active. And 15,000 have used the web app. And that would be like just going to the website and using it. So the 85,000 is total users, but it's divided out into the different ways that you can use the app. But those are good numbers, and Recycle Coach usually tells us that we have really good numbers. But it does help that when we started with them, they ported over about 30,000 people that were receiving the large item notifications through another system. So we had a little leg up at the start, but still 85,000 is pretty good.
We add this to every pop-up drop-off. We're handing out cards. Sign up for the Recycle Coach app. Sign up for the Recycle Coach app.
Well, when you consider there's what, roughly around 100,000 households. Well, that's just this is countywide, correct?
Correct.
It is
Yeah.
countywide, yeah.
Yeah.
There's about 360,000 households in
So
the
that's approaching 30%. That's pretty good.
it's excellent.
Are there any other questions or comments from board members? Okay, thank you, Karen. Pete, you want to do a roll call vote?
Deidre Shipley,
Yes.
Deborah Thompson,
Yes.
Mary Rose Evans,
Yes,
Bob Lee,
Yes.
Susan Hart,
Yes.
Bob Schindler.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to old business.
Okay, so the subcommittee or the committees have continued to work on the drafts of the 5-year solid waste management plan going by chapters. So we continue to work on it, committee and staff. And we've worked on the chapter 2, which is the collection system. And I'm not necessarily going to get into the individual details of that as the committee, it's still not a final document to bring back to the board. But what I wanted to tell you is that the committee has agreed pretty much in whole on the document. There's just a few little things in there, and I'm sure that they're going to be the ones that's a little bit more difficult to work out. So there was new language that was sent out to the committee members yesterday, trying to address some of the concerns and comments, mostly about how to describe the method of collection contained in the residential sector and in the section of the weaknesses. They've received that. We have not met again. I sent the draft document to the board because while it's not something that the board needs to vote on, I think that it's good that you guys see an update as to where the committee is and the progress that we're making. So when it comes time for you guys to really be involved, it's not the first time you see it. So I'm willing to take questions about it. I have the document prepared to pull up if anybody's read it and has some concerns that they want to bring up or suggestions for the collection chapter. And then we'll also do the same thing for the recycling chapter. So I'd kind of like to open it up.
I have a comment. I understand the waste hauler's concern about the word organized and unorganized, and they had suggested contracted. I thought about coordinated or, and I don't know what the opposite of coordinated is, but anyway, just as to put out another word to think for people to think about.
Thank you. We'll bring that to the committee.
Yes, I agree with that.
That is
I
the
have
opposite of coordinated.
that.
I didn't hear your last comment, Mary Rose.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think maybe random is the other word that's not for not coordinated. It's random because anybody can contract with anybody they want to, and so it's just kind of random. But there may be a better word. I don't have that thesaurus.
Thank you.
Bob, this is Bob Lee. I just simply would want to say that we have much more concern and that we will be addressing the issue even stronger as we go to the advisory committee. I don't think it's appropriate to take it to the 109 board. I, quite frankly, don't agree with this draft that has been sent to the 109 board without even being seen by the advisory board, which was the protocol to begin with. So we will be talking about that and much more during the advisory committee.
I have some comments, Pete, but they're just in reading through it. There typos and I think maybe word omissions at the end of sentence and stuff like that. It's nothing of any substance. So I won't try to go through it today. I'll just send an email.
That'd be great. Thank you, Bob. Pete?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Chairman Schindler, I do want to state that our recommendations to the board will come following a vote. And we have made progress on this material that Pete's put together. I think there are still some differences that we will iron out, hopefully at the next advisory committee meeting. But we have made progress, and the formal document will come to you following a vote of the full advisory committee. And the results then we'll share if we vote in favor of sending the document to you. But our challenge was to fully vet all recommendations, and that's what we intend to do. So that'll be the process.
Okay. Thank you, Robert. Bruce.
I have one more thing. I didn't take this as anything that officially came to us. I was glad to hear some of the process that's going on. And I did not think in any way that this was any kind of a final document. So anyway, I just wanted to add that part.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't either, because it's not on the agenda. It would, for us to take any action on it, it would have to be on the agenda. I just took this as informational.
Yeah.
On just purely on process, Pete, will the 5-year plan come to us as a single document, or is there any advantage to the committee and to staff with this coming in segments that we approve and then approve a final document? Does that make any difference?
Obviously, this is something that we don't do very often, right? So I want to, before I answer that, I do want to bring up a timeline and the difficulty and time pressure that we are under to get this done. You know, I'm looking for July 20th for us to be complete with all chapters, description, strengths, weaknesses, and to get that to the 109 board. That is not far away. And the committee needs to do a lot of work. If we have to do a vote on each thing, that will make it very difficult for us to do. After that, we want the committee to present on August 17th the potential actions for each one of those chapters. The board would meet on a retreat, hopefully August 24th, to review the strengths and weaknesses, consider the proposed action plans, approve the plan for publishing of the public notice requesting comment, and getting that into the paper by August 26th. We have to have that out for 30 days. So that would put us with a board or a public comment hearing in late September and delivered to the state by October 1st. So that's a whole lot of stuff that's got to take place. Where we stand right now is we've worked on chapter 2 and chapter 4 that the committee has seen. The chapter 1 background chapter hasn't been started, but that's not necessarily an issue because it's basically informational and supplying documents. The chapter 3 disposal is generally not all that involved. However, they are wanting us to do the capacity assurance a little bit different in this plan. So I'm not real sure how long that would take. That would be the next section that we take up. Chapter 5, the illegal open dumps and litter. I've drafted that. It's being reviewed by the Clean Collab, because basically it's Metro government that's doing most of the litter collection. Hopefully we can get that to the committee for comment. We got chapter 6, facility siting, been drafted, trying to get with Metro planning and design to get any updates in the land development code that would impact siting of solid waste management facilities. And then chapter 7, which is enforcement, which is mostly drafted except for the strengths and weaknesses not reviewed by the committee. And then financial mechanisms, which is a whole nother ballgame, but one that's simply just numbers. And so that shouldn't be that difficult. So I'm saying all of this with the idea that when we come back to get all of this stuff done, we're gonna have to work extremely fast. And I don't want to skip over, and I don't want to hear people, not hear associations and things, but we have to understand that we need to push this timeline as much as possible. The advisory committee's already suspended the other committee work, and hopefully we can start to include additional meetings for us to be able to get that done. So with all that said, we're still pushing it. The real public comment period to the public, where it really starts, is when we publish that notice for the 30-day public comment period. And that's where we can potentially make changes to the document. So when we bring something back to the board, it's still possible to change that based upon that public comment. We're trying to get consensus on what that document looks like, but it's not a final document until that the board approves this through resolution. So it's a lot of process to get done in a small amount of time, and we're kind of behind the 8 ball on this right now. So everybody expect a lot of meetings because we're going to need it to get it done.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Anything else, Pete? On this?
No, we've also probably mostly completed the chapter 4. Most of the language has been agreed upon, and there is new language that was also sent yesterday to add some context from the committee's input, and then a little bit further language from the staff. I kind of expect the recycling chapter to be done fairly quickly upon meeting with the advisory committee meeting group again. The chapter 2, hopefully, I think we're fairly close on that, and I think that we'll be able to get that done in short order and start to be able to move on to the other chapters. These were the 2 toughest. That's why that they were first. So I think things will move along a little bit faster once we get these 2 under the belt.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but at the end of this process, we take the draft 5-year plan to a public notice, public hearing, a public notice for 30 days, a public hearing at the end of the 30 days. At the public hearing, we will be presented with a proposed final plan based on public comments. And then the board takes action on that plan at that public hearing.
Yes, if after hearing all the comments and anybody wishing to speak at that hearing, if the board wishes to make additional changes, the board can make those additional changes. And we have to do that fairly quickly. Now, it gets a little bit tricky if we make substantive changes, and the state may require us to do another 30-day comment period. I don't know. Hopefully, we all come out of this with a very good plan, and any changes that are suggested are minor in nature. And the board at that meeting could say, yes, this is our plan. And that's when there's a resolution that has to be adopted for passage. And once it's passed, that's when it goes to the state for their approval.
And just assuming that the board made substantial changes and the state required another public notice and another public hearing, then that schedule change would be on state and we would not be dinged for being late.
That's correct.
Okay.
Oh,
Any other questions or comments on that whole process? Okay, thank you. Then item number 2, or have you already covered this?
Yeah, I covered that, Bob. That's the
Okay.
recycling chapter.
Item number 3, Urton Lane.
Well, going on 3 months now. When Urton Lane recycling site closed, when the fire department needed us to move out, we have not been able to find a site, and it has been one of the hottest topics out in that part of town that the Metro Council people have ever really had. Everybody wants that recycling center back, but I can tell you, just like we told you guys at the last meeting, there's no space in Middletown. There's no vacant land. Any place that's undeveloped is under development or being sold or being rezoned so it can be sold. So we've looked at a lot of places, and one of the places could be E.B. Tom Sawyer Park, but that is not going to be acceptable for the area to be served according to some. So right now we're looking at a potential place at Smith Creek. Matt Smith is a member of our advisory committee. He purchased a property out there to do his yard, to accept yard waste, and he has said that he is interested in hosting the site, which is fairly close. There are some considerations there. It's going to have to be, we're going to have to develop it a little bit. We're going to have to build out some infrastructure, which is going to cost money. Hopefully we can get that through Metro Council. The second part of that is we have to come up with an agreement, a lease agreement. And I don't think that's going to be a problem. Matt is not really looking for, he's just looking for to cover any kind of cost that he has. The drawbacks to the site is it's on Aiken Road, and Aiken Road is a busy road. There's concern about traffic. There's concern about the number of heavy vehicles that use his operation out there, and mixing in 200 or 300 cars could be an issue. So we're meeting next week again, taking out our roads engineering group and hopefully the leasing people soon thereafter so that we can get that developed. Nobody wants that site to be up and running more than us. So I just wanted to bring that to y'all's attention because it is a hot topic in that part of town. We're working hard to get it done. I would be willing to take any questions on that if you guys have any.
On the map you have on the screen, the recycling symbol that's off to the left by the word potential, is that the proposed site?
That's the Whips Mill site, which is
Okay.
5 miles away.
Okay, I was thinking that had to be Whips Mill. Yeah.
This is the site that just closed. The site that we're talking about is about right here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
right before, and it's got some good, there's some really good aspects to this site because it you know, you have a throughput under Schneider, and there's a lot of people that utilize the site from out past that Gene Snyder, and they wouldn't have to go down and around. We would still be able to get that traffic from that direction. So it's a good site. It's just some logistical issues need to be worked out. We're excited about it.
I'll just add that so I've been out and about at a lot of community events in the last few months for our Solar Over Louisville campaign, among many other environmental outreach efforts. That's something that's come up from the community members. You know, I'm out there talking about sustainability, and a complaint I've heard quite a few times was my self-service recycling center is gone and I don't know what to do with my recycling. And so, you know, that's just something that I think emphasizes the urgency of finding a solution here, because we have, you know, some of the people I talked to were saying, oh, I'm trying to find a different way temporarily, bringing things to work. But you know, there's you know, there's definitely a gap there that only the most dedicated recyclers are continuing to find a solution on their own.
Yeah. Thank you. By the way, that's Julie. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, Julie Donna, Sustainability Coordinator for the city for the Office of Advanced Planning and Sustainability.
Thank you.
I have a question. This is maybe kind of random, but we have money in our account, what Pete called an account earlier. Can we buy a piece of land to do this on?
Unfortunately, the land values out there are so great, and there's so little. The competition for that for that is
Okay.
way too much. I think we would be paying big dollars to be able to get into that market.
Okay.
We really tried to push to get a spot at Valhalla Golf Club.
Oh, yeah.
There's actually a perfect spot, but they was a little hesitant because they was afraid that vehicles would get out onto the course somehow. So we almost had it, but didn't quite pull through. That'd have been a coup.
Okay, thanks for your efforts on that. I meant to say something, and this is my fault. I meant to say something when you were on the other item. Bruce, are you still around?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
I wanted you to express, I think on behalf of the board, to members of the advisory committee, our appreciation for all of the work that they've been doing, and then you're having to hold up that work and charge ahead on this 5-year plan. I wanted, just on behalf of the board, I wanted to express a great deal of appreciation to members of the advisory committee. And if you'd pass that along, please.
I certainly will, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.
Okay, Pete, any new business?
Bob, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Pete said in passing that there may be a board retreat on August 20 something. Can we address that a little more for putting it on our calendars, the hours and so on, or do we know anything more about that?
We don't have the details of that yet.
Okay.
Something that Karen and I need to discuss a little bit more about making sure that we have availability.
Thank you.
According to my calendar, that would be the normal meeting date, but retreat might involve more time, so it might involve something earlier in the day, but that is our regular meeting day.
Right. I agree. Yeah. Okay. Sorry to interrupt the schedule.
Oh, that's quite all right. New business.
Oops, sorry. There is a conference, the Resource Recycling Conference, that is down in Austin, Texas, on August 15th through 17th. And myself, Karen, and Diane Moon would like to attend that conference. The cost of that for all three of us is estimated to be about $6,500 with airfare, hotel accommodations, ground transportation, and per diem for meals. This is a really good conference that we've wanted to go to for a long time. And you can see the why and what's there with being able to get with MRF operators and key industry groups and other experts to walk through practical tools to inform and information to curb contamination and behavior change. This is something that's very important to us. Here's some latest analysis on markets. I think that's always good for us to hear and to learn a little bit more about the greenhouse gas emissions that are involved in the municipal recycling and composting system. And to get a first-hand look at some of the new processing and hauling technology. This is just a highlight to this. I am very much interested in one of the sessions on chemical recycling, which would include items of plastic that can't necessarily be captured within the normal recycling system. And it's a chemical recycling in that it is melted, reused, and made into fuels or candles or the such. It is kind of taken on across the country. I know the state of Kentucky looked at it as far as creating some new legislation involving that. So it's going to be on the rise, and just wanting to get ahead of it. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to attend that class. is there any questions? Karen, do you have anything to add as to why you would like to go to this conference?
Well, I did attend in 2018, it was in St. Louis, so it was a little cheaper because I could drive. And in 2019, it was in New Orleans, and I went. And since then, of course, we've added Diane, and in 2020 and 2021, it was supposed to be in Austin, Texas both times. So I'm glad they didn't give up on Austin and finally are having it in person. Last year we signed up for virtual, which, you know, it's nice to hear some good presentations, but definitely not the same. So I've made some contacts that I enjoy seeing at the conferences, and I look forward, as long as you all approve it, I'd look forward to going again and just learning even more now that I've been here longer.
To not having the detailed budget in front of us, is there a travel allocation in the budget, or do we need to approve this as an item?
I would ask that you approve it as an item. There is a budget line for it, but it is woefully low funded. But within that same budget category is the rollover that could be accessed to be able to do this. But I would rather that we get a vote on this expenditure and allowing the staff to go. And I think as it's over $5,000, I think it's better to ask prior. So that's why it's here today.
Okay, can I have a motion? Is anybody prepared to make a motion?
Bob, I would like to make a motion that we approve $6,500 for the 3 staff people to go out, highly value professional education. And I think that this will be a great value to them and to the board and to our city. So
I second that emotion.
We have a motion and a second. Thank you all for that. I agree with your characterization. Since this, is there, well, first of all, is there any discussion from board members on this?
Bob, I have a point of discussion.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is not only individuals that assist the district, but also that are staff from Metro government. I would prefer to split the 6,500 with Metro government and make sure that they get their, I don't know why we would be the only ones that would take on the full 100% of the cost.
Well, I'm assuming the reason we would take on the full 100% is these are all staff members of the Waste Management District. They're Waste Management District employees.
They're employees of the district, not Metro government.
They're officially Metro government employees, but they're funded specifically out of the Waste Management District budget and through that MOA. And one of the things that I would say is most of the topics here are well, almost, I guess all of them are waste district related versus Metro government related. Although they can be used in both, I'm assuming. But you know, whatever the board so chooses, I'm not sure if that's what the board chooses, it would be another level of approval, and I would have to see that if there's funds available, if they do approve it, you know, however you guys want to do it.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Let's go ahead and vote on it and see where it goes. Roll call.
Deetra Shipley,
Yes.
Deborah Thompson,
Yes.
Mary Rose Evans,
yes.
Bob Lee,
No,
Susan Hart. I think Susan might be frozen.
I'm frozen.
There you are.
Yes.
Susan Hart,
Yes.
Motion passes 5-1.
I-
Oh, Bob Schindler,
Yes.
motion passes 5-1.
Okay, thank you all very much. The advisory committee report. Did I just see Bruce sign off?
No, I'm here.
Bruce
Chairman
Burrell is still
Schindler.
here.
Oh, okay. I guess I misread what popped up on the bottom of the screen. Sorry.
I would like to say that first and foremost, Pete and Karen have put a lot of diligent work in on the 5-year plan, and we have to commend their efforts. We have suspended all subcommittee work on the other recycling initiatives to focus on the 5-year plan. The collection chapter is coming along. We've made some changes, we feel, in the direction that the 5-year plan will lead us to over the next 5 years. We're very cautious and very careful about the wording that we put into our recommendations to you on the 5-year plan so that we can continue to provide service as you've experienced over the last many 5 years that we've been in the market. So the advisory committee sole focus right now is to work on these chapters with the effort that Pete and Karen have put in to come up with wording that's acceptable. We hope to bring it to you with a unanimous vote, pending our review and discussions. But you should see information come to you very soon that's been reviewed in detail by the committee.
Okay, thanks, Bruce.
The only other thing I would recommend, also wanted to bring to the board's is the June 29th Cincinnati Murph Tour. That is still open for attendance. It's at 9:30 a.m. I believe Karen sent out a memo to everyone on email earlier. That date is quickly approaching. I didn't realize it was so close myself. So if you do have the opportunity to join us, that would be great.
Okay, Karen. Karen, could I ask you to resend me that email? I was just looking here. I seem to have misplaced it.
Yes. Yep, I could do that.
Thank
About the
you.
Rumpke tour, right?
Yes, yes. Okay, anything else? Any questions of Bruce or Karen? Staff report.
You want to take this one up on the screen?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about our pop-up drop-off events. We've had 3 so far this year, and about 1,200 participants total. So not far off. We had over 500 at Sun Valley and U of L, a little bit less to the Newburgh Road, but that's been typical even last year. We're at Doss High School this coming Saturday, and this is our first event at this location. And the reason we chose this location, it takes the place of one of the Sun Valley events from based on last year's calendar. Because when we looked at the participation zip code map that we used, there was kind of a gap there. And so we found that Doss High School would be a good location to maybe try to draw in some residents that to make it more convenient for some maybe that didn't participate. So we've been putting that out. I'm going to make another social media post tomorrow. So if you all see that and want to help spread the word, that would be great. And I do have a spreadsheet where I'm tracking our materials collected. Last year, we had an overall of a 41% diversion rate. And for the first 3 events, the average is 40.8%. So right now we're just kind of staying pretty level with last year, but we were hoping we would increase the diversion rate. So we'll see.
I think I've asked this question before, but if I recall correctly, we're probably again running well ahead of the attendance that we had the last several times this was done out at the landfill years ago, correct?
Yes,
I
sir.
heard you all say that. I wasn't around for those.
Okay. That's correct, Pete, you said?
Yes, sir. We're probably 5 times bigger than what we've done out there, at least.
Well, that's good because that indicates that we're getting service out to a lot more people by making it more convenient. Thanks, Karen.
It-
Yeah.
It's extremely popular, I can tell you that.
Questions of board members, comments for board members?
Bob, I'm sorry, but I have another meeting and I have to leave the meeting now. So I can go to the next meeting.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I think
Oh,
we're
Thank
done
you.
with the thing that might require votes and all that. So thank you.
Bye.
Drive carefully.
Thank you.
Moving on to announcements.
As you'll see on the screen, the 109 board's next meeting is July 27th at 5:30. Although I will say that as with the 5-year solid waste management plan, always be expecting a special meeting request from the staff here to try to push things along. So maybe we'll have one for the board before that time, just to kind of keep things moving. The residential construction and demolition subcommittee has been suspended pending the 5-year solid waste management plan, as same as the self-haul and ICI subcommittee. What I will say is I'm hoping that we can utilize those time slots that people are used to having meetings, to utilize those for additional meetings of the advisory committee to continue our work. And then the next advisory committee meeting that is scheduled and announced as July 20th, 2022. Again, all these are posted on our website, and you can see any minutes, videos, and agendas on our website as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Any additional comments, questions from anybody? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you all very much, both staff and board members and the public for attending. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you all very much. See you all next week, hopefully, next month, hopefully.
Okay. Thanks. Bye-bye.
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 Yes. Time is 7:03.